Hi, this is Shoshanah Shear of beahappymom.com, and in today's video I wanted to answer a question that was posed to me by a fellow occupational therapist who I connected with recently on Instagram. I'm really enjoying Instagram actually. It's quite a fun platform to use, a social networking forum. The question that was posed to me by this OT was how I'd got into doing freelance writing. And I thought I'd share my story a little bit because it could be a benefit to other occupational therapists, and it's really been a progression. It wasn't suddenly a decision that I came up with. So let me explain a little bit. To do so, I'm going to have to backtrack quite a number of years. I think we're going back about 30 years, 31 years if I'm not mistaken. When I was in my first and second year of university, I was a member of the archery club, and initially I was just a participant in the archery club, and then I progressed to being chairperson. And one of the tasks that I had was to bring out a newsletter. I don't recall at this stage whether that was on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, bi-monthly. I'm sorry, I don't remember any longer. But the point is that I brought out this newsletter, and in order to do so, in those days, this was before the internet. Sorry. Anyway, I came up with a logo, which I drew by hand, and I photocopied enough pages that would be my front page that I would use, and then I typed my newsletter on the electric typewriter that I had before computers. I guess the computers in a way were starting, but they weren't really so much a part of everybody's home. We got to have computers come in a year or so after that. But at this stage, bringing out this newsletter, I typed it up on my electric typewriter. And I must say that in coming up with ideas for the content of the newsletter, in producing the newsletter, everything I did myself. I didn't go on any courses. Somehow I came up with information. It was a combination of upcoming competitions, who'd won a competition, next meeting, any change of information, positive, motivating points. I don't remember everything that went into it, but I did my fair share of newsletters, and that perhaps was the start of my writing in a way. The next time I came across some kind of more formal means of writing, I guess I would say that was writing minutes for various AGMs that I attended. And I apologize at this stage. I know that I wrote quite a few minutes. I don't recall all of the organizations or forums in which I was involved in doing this. I think that one was when I was a secretary before I became the chairperson of what we called Range Rovers, which actually goes back to before I was studying in university. Range Rovers, for anybody who's heard of Rovers, which is an extension of Boy Scouts, and then for the girls, there are Girl Guides becomes Rangers. We, for a year or so in Cape Town, had a combination of the boys and the girls together, and we called ourselves Range Rovers. And for some reason, I was elected in as the chairperson. And although I had a secretary, I remember I did the minutes quite often. Anyway, that was types of writing that I did. Then, of course, being a student, one writes many articles, essays, and so on. And when I qualified and I started practicing, I started to use writing in a number of different ways. Of course, there's treatment notes that we write daily. Aside from that, I was writing up a proposal. I think the first proposal I wrote was for a back rehabilitation unit that I was in the process of researching. And I came up with a number of proposals. I was quite forward thinking, so I was always coming up with some new program or piece of equipment or something, and quite often I had to write something to substantiate what I was doing, or to explain, or to propose or promote what I was doing. Of course, when I signed up for the South African Occupational Therapy Association, we received a journal, which was a little-ish booklet, a little-ish publication, and a number of the articles were written by colleagues of mine who were sharing the same office as I was, and it was intriguing for me, and I started to think, well, there are colleagues of mine who sit in the same meetings and we're in the same office. They're being published. Maybe at some stage I'll also do something. It kind of was brewing in the back burner for quite some time. Then when I went to study with Professor Kielhofner, which was an absolutely amazing opportunity and an experience, I studied the advanced model of human occupational advanced theory course of human occupation, which is the model that Prof Kielhofner was involved in. And I applied what I was learning to the school where I was working at the time and came up with a support group for spinal cord injured high school students. And Prof Kielhofner recommended and suggested and encouraged me to write up what it was that I was doing. And he suggested that I approach initially advanced for OT, which I did. And I didn't realize at the time that that probably was a form of pitching. I was given the email address, I was given the contact editor's name, and I went ahead and I explained what it was that I was doing, and I said that I was encouraged by Prof Kielhofner, and I went ahead, I was accepted, fortunately, and I wrote my article. It went into Advanced for OT, and I didn't think too much of it. I didn't put too much thought into it. It just happened. When I came back to South Africa, by then I was starting to look into potentially researching an occupational therapy program for patients suffering from ME, myalgic encephalomyelitis. I have a personal interest in that, which we'll get into in a different video. And as part of my research, I heard about a new magazine, health magazine, that was coming out, and somebody said to me, why don't you write up your story? And so I approached the editor, and she said, yes, we are looking for personal stories. And that was it. I wrote an A4 page, I don't remember how many words it was, but I wrote an article. It was published, and I didn't think too much about that. Then as I progressed a little bit, I was writing a number of proposals for new ways in which to use occupational therapy. At that stage already I'd hit the affirmative action, and I was looking at creative ways in which occupational therapy could be a part of facilities that might benefit from OT, where OT was not yet happening, OT being, of course, occupational therapy. And that required quite substantial amount of writing. If we progress a little bit more, by the time I came to Israel, and I was now I worked in a few different schools. In one of the schools I was concerned about the environmental conditions, and I started to a number of things concerned me about the conditions in which I was placed working. One was from the point of view of the occupational therapist, speech therapist, or social worker or psychologist who would be working in the rooms that I was assigned to work in, and the effects to health of the therapist. But I was concerned also about the children, because environmental conditions do have an effect on one's ability to function. And I wanted to get that message out to parents, and I wanted it. So I was interested in how I could get this message through to as many parents as possible, because I thought it's important for parents to be aware that the environmental conditions of the treatment room in which their children are receiving occupational therapy and other therapies has an effect, and especially if children are needing to be able to concentrate more, they're perhaps distractible, they have sensory integration, sensory processing problems. The environmental factors are very important, and I wanted to get this message out to parents. And so I considered where I could possibly get this message out, and I decided to try submitting the idea to a website that I from time to time have used and have looked at. And in doing so, I contacted the editor of that website, and I happened to decide, oh, well, why not send in a couple of other ideas? But if they don't like that idea, maybe they'd like a few others. So I didn't realize at the time I was doing that really is probably cold pitching. Well, it was a pleasant surprise to discover that I was actually paid for that article. All of the articles I'd written up until that point, I was not paid for at all. And this opened the door for me of the whole idea of writing and being paid for writing. So I started to network and find, where can one be able to publish articles that would be of benefit to the public? And a few people said to me, what about Elance or Odesk, which at the time, this was before they combined to become Upwork. I put together my profile and I tried on those platforms. I was accepted to write 2 articles and I wasn't paid for either of those articles. And I was a little bit upset by that. So I persevered and I networked a little bit more. And I asked a number of occupational therapists, and some therapists said, oh no, we don't get paid for the writing that we do. We write our professional articles and we put them out, and they're for professional knowledge. We don't get paid for that. So I thought, but I was paid. Why couldn't I be paid somewhere else? And I continued researching and networking. And a funny thing happened in this process, and that is that all of a sudden, now that there was money involved and the potential to earn, I started to become self-conscious, I guess, and nervous as to the process. And in retrospect, I wonder why I ever thought that, because really I had quite naturally just gone into, there was a message to get out, this was a suitable platform, it makes sense to contact the editor, that would be the person to speak to, and so what would be the problem? Now, some time has passed since then, and I'm happy to say that I have a writing portfolio up. I'm constantly adding to my own blogs. I have a few blogs on the go. I'm writing up the scripts and the information. I'm coming up with ideas to put into the content of the videos. And I have been published in other publications and on other blogs and websites. I've also done ghostwriting or co-authoring of a book. I must say also in this process, I brought out my own book and co-authored a children's book together with my husband. So there's quite a lot of writing that's sort of happened, and it's been a kind of a natural progression to a certain extent. There's some work that I still need to do in figuring out 1 or 2 finer points with some of the writing I'd like to do, because I'd like to get into writing more case studies, successful case studies, white papers, more ebooks, product reviews. I'm looking to also start doing some product reviews on this channel. So there's some other things that I'm interested in doing, and everything is a growth and everything is a progression. One thing I would say is that when I think back over all the writing that I've done over the years of being an occupational therapist, and from my student days also, there's so much writing that we do naturally as occupational therapists. My advice to an occupational therapist who's wanting to get into this is, don't get stuck on people saying that you can't possibly do this until you learn how to cold pitch, and you can't possibly do this until you learn the procedure of who to contact and how to contact and where to research and all of this. I would say, just if you have a good message that needs to get out and you know where the audience is or which publication, which website, start writing and the rest will follow. So that's my little bit of experience, my story, and I hope that you've enjoyed. If you have any questions, do be in touch. If you'd like to have a look at my writing portfolio or the services that I'm now offering as a freelance writer, you're welcome to do so. I'll be including the information and the links in the notes to this video. And if you have other questions, do be in touch. I'm happy to answer questions. It can be on Instagram, it can be via my website, it can be on Twitter, on Facebook, Pinterest. I'm in a number of places, and I'm happy to be in touch with people. So lovely to hear from another occupational therapist, and thanks for asking the question. Ciao for now, and see you in the next video.
Hi, this is Shoshanah Shear of BeAHappyMom.com, and I want to thank you for watching the video all the way through. If you're seeing this clip, that means you've watched the entire video, and I really appreciate your having done so. If you've enjoyed this video, please do put a comment or a question in the comments below. Subscribe to this channel, share it with your friends, and do remember to press like or to press that little bell down at the bottom so that you can have notification of further videos of this nature coming out. We have many more interviews that we're planning, and some other videos, some of them demonstration videos, a range of other kinds of videos. And I'd ask you also to please become a member on my Patreon or on the membership levels of my website, BeAHappyMom.com. Your membership helps me to be able to spend the time in the videoing, in the interviewing, in research, in all the different phases involved in bringing you quality videos. And we have many ideas to improve the quality of the videos. We're improving all the time as we progress in what we're doing online to bring some information to you, the general public, fellow OTs, those interested in occupational therapy. And so thank you so much, and thank you for being a part. Do subscribe to this channel, and see you in the next video.